Hello and welcome to the Euro What, episode number 80 for the week of March 9th, 2020. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm joined today by Mike McComb. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest, and this week we'll be washing our hands of the national selection season.
Boo.
Boo.
Yeah.
Bad jokes.
Oh, goodness. How's it going, Ben?
It's great. I'm in your house, which is weird.
Yeah. We decided that the best way to cover the end of national selection season was to be in the same time zone. We're figuring things out.
We're figuring things out. It's fun having live shows with an audience of zero. That works for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason that Ben is in town, as you may have seen on our social media, we did Geek Bowl for... Is this the fourth year?
This is the fourth year that we collectively have done Geek Bowl. I did not go to the one in Boston, weirdly, but other than that, it's been an unbroken record of doing Geek Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, while we were in the throes of selection Saturday, noticed that 12 Points from America seemed to be posting tweets from the Art Institute in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I know that they're not from here either. So sent them a message and was like, hello, other Eurovision podcast. Would you like to meet up at Geek Bowl? And they said yes, which is great. So we got to say hi to other podcasters. It's fun.
Yeah. As they said, it's very niche and weird to encounter other people in that equally narrow niche of things.
Of people who are both really into Eurovision and really into trivia.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was super awesome meeting up with Sam and Eric.
Yes.
And they placed second with their team, which was great.
Yeah. So congrats to them.
Congrats to them. We placed 20th, which also very good.
Yes.
This was a field of 230-something competitors.
Yeah.
So we smart.
Yes, and it was a lot of fun. If you had a chance to do Geek Bowl, highly recommend it. And our team name was in honor of our favorite act from last year's contest, Honktrid Moon Sigra, because we also really enjoyed Untitled Goose Game. So,
Yes.
Of course, there were the obligatory jokes, comments, what have you, about being in a public gathering space with a rather large crowd. And the coronavirus is affecting the head of delegations meeting that happened, well, I guess it would have started yesterday as this episode drops. Sweden, Israel, Greece, they all decided that they weren't going to send delegations to the actual meeting and are just going to Skype in or whatever video conferencing they'll have set up. But unfortunately, somebody at Eurovision HQ in Geneva tested positive for coronavirus, and as a result, no employees are allowed to travel during the incubation period, which means that Jan Olasand and the people who are actually running the head of delegations meeting won't be at the actual meeting. They will also be Skyping in. So, a lot of concerns about how Eurovision's going to function this year, but according to the Dutch broadcaster NPO who's organizing the contest, they have several backup plans, which does not surprise me, and then that canceling and postponing aren't even being considered at this point, so fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, speaking as someone who has purchased the flight tickets, please...
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a great vacation regardless.
It'll be a great vacation regardless. I'm super happy that NPO clearly has things covered, has thought about this, and already has several backup plans. Hopefully they will not need to use too many of them, or it will just be, please wash your hands.
Yeah. And to help with that, the song clips that we'll have for this episode will be at least 20 seconds. So, as you're washing your hands.
Exactly. If you're tired of singing Happy Birthday to yourself twice.
Mm-hmm. Since this is the end of selection season, we thought we would be able to do some sort of bracket type thing that we did last year. But as we're recording this, we're still waiting on a handful of songs. So we have no opinions yet because these songs
we literally cannot have opinions on these songs.
Yes. So I think North Macedonia dropped maybe 20 minutes before we started recording. So we want to give these late breaking entries a little time.
Space to breathe.
Yeah.
Space to exist.
Yes, so we're just going to cover internal selections that started out at the beginning of last week and the 4 national finals that happened this past weekend, since we have had a chance to kind of ruminate with these songs.
We did build a panopticon to watch all of those at once.
Oh, yeah. Future note, Panopticons, not practical.
Nope.
Not really useful. It actually made life a little
No, just like a lot of teamwork, a lot of muting of remotes, a lot of unmuting of other remotes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll get into that. But,
yes.
As we were finishing last week's episode, we mentioned that Georgia was going to be dropping mere hours after we finished recording. And that first entry comes from Tornike Kipiani with the song Take Me As I Am.
Take me as I am. But you don't love me. Why don't you love me? So tell me, why do you want?
I tried to stay up to watch the reveal of this, but the time that they gave was the start of their morning show, and it wouldn't surprise me if this aired more toward the end, and it's like, it's a school night. And,
it was a school night. I did not even attempt to, because I was like, I did not even remember the link to click on to watch the morning show, so I was like, there's going to be a video tomorrow. I'll watch the video tomorrow.
Yeah. What did you think of the video and the song?
I'm going to go positive first.
Okay.
Is I appreciate that Georgia has found a way, or at least a different approach, to do a male ballad. And that this feels very different from past entries that have kind of worked in the same space. Like, overall, the genre is not my thing. I feel like somewhere along the way, when he was talking about the song, and this could just be me misremembering, but I thought we were getting like a dubstep element.
Oh.
So I spent a large portion of the 3 minutes waiting for the drop to happen, or waiting for like something to happen in the background, and it did kind of keep building and building and building, and then it just kind of stops.
Yeah. I really like this song.
Okay.
But not in a way where it's just like, I'm not going to try to defend it too vigorously, because this is clearly a thumb in the eye toward Eurovision.
Oh yeah, this is yeah. Well, what this felt like to me is this felt like 3 minutes of like a 7-minute song.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like this is like the radio edit, but it's maybe not the best radio edit.
Yeah.
Of like the full movement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what I think is interesting about this song, like, I mean, I enjoy the critique that it's offering, particularly the Big Five.
Yes.
And, but like just Western Europe in general, and just kind of the disdain that seems
it's
to
like
exist.
why do you demand that I be like you?
Right. But at the same time, there's no Georgian in the song. And I thought that was an interesting choice. Like, it seems like that would be something that like could be kind of whispered in the background.
Could be in the background, or could like have like a final verse that is in Georgian. Because you're not going to be like an Englishman. You're not going to be like a French home. You're going to be who you are.
Right. I'm excited to see how this one evolves over the next couple of months. I would be, well, I don't know. It's a little too early to predict how it's going to do in the general field.
Yeah.
But I'll be curious to see if he'll be making appearances at the various pre-parties and what the reception's going to be there.
Okay, and then on March 3rd, Israel had their selection for their entry, and Eden Aline will be singing Feker Libi in Rotterdam.
Feker Libi. I'm not ashamed to love you tonight. I'm gonna find you. I call your name. Feker Libi. Habib Libi. Ahuf Libi. Otani Ohevet. Feker Libi. Habib Libi.
So Eden Aline won Israel's Rising Star last month, and on this show she had 4 songs up for consideration. Feker Libi won with 53% of the televote, and it is a song that has Amharic, Arabic, English, and Hebrew, and was co-written by the guy who wrote Toy, so Israel is not messing around.
No, not at all. And really, like, any one of those 4 songs could have taken the win. This was my pick for the win, just because there's just so much joy in the performance.
Yes.
And it's so colorful, and I have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure Amharic has not appeared at Eurovision before, so it's like, yay, a new language. And,
Yes.
And Eden, like, I believe she previously won X Factor. Obviously, she won Rising Star, so she knows how to work the stage.
Yes.
Which is very important. So,
Well, and when she got announced, like, I had said that I had watched her performance of Fuego, and I was like, well, this is a good performance, but it's maybe not her song. This is a great example of why picking an artist first and then writing to them is a strong way to go.
yeah, Doron Melody, who is the co-writer of Toy, did the same thing with Netta, and like there was a collaboration there. I can definitely see the collaboration here. It's drawing on Eden's background. I believe her mother is Ethiopian, or she's at least of Ethiopian descent. So bringing in those elements, I'm very excited to see this one.
Well, yeah, it reminds me strongly of, from about 10 years ago at this point, Haba Haba by Stella Mwangi.
Oh, yeah.
But it feels like an improved version of that, and I'm hoping that Eurovision itself has kind of improved in the 10 years, because that one I thought got unfairly shut out. Like, it did not qualify.
Right. Getting into some of the other internal selections, Netherlands finally released their entry, which is coming from Jeangu Macrooy, and his song, Grow.
Don't mind my mood, changing like the weather. God knows I try to hold it all together. I'm getting older, and it ain't what I thought it would be.
When we had first looked at Jeangu's Spotify and just started the music he had released before, I had kind of gravitated towards his more up-tempo stuff. And I think in recent weeks we've been discussing sort of how Eurovision has serious years and Eurovision has fun years.
Right.
And I was kind of hoping that he was going to lean more on the fun side.
Oh, okay.
On the other hand, because I was really hoping for something like Dance With Me off of his most recent album. But I really like this lyrically.
Yes.
I really like the way it builds. I won't have to worry about this in like our semifinal ratings, but I tend to do an overall rating once we know the full field, just to see where, and I'm really interested to see where this shakes out for me, because I think it could go multiple ways. On the other hand, from a strategic standpoint, if it's looking, again, fun years versus serious years, if you are a nation that's hosting and you're not sure that you want to host again, and you know what the vibe is kind of looking like, it makes a lot of sense to, okay, it's looking like we're going to be having a fun year. If we do like a really solid, serious song, we can still place well, but not have to worry about winning.
From what I read, this song wasn't necessarily written for Eurovision.
Okay.
It was just like,
I would buy that.
Yeah, it was a 3-minute song, and I just love the build of the song. It's kind of like if this year wanted to be Eurovision the musical, like this would be a great like second act. Not the closing song, but definitely working towards that end point. And particularly when the like choir is coming in and just but like not doing the standard like choir backing that you have in like American Idol performances, for example. Like it's just like, oh no, it's just really kind of providing like the harmonics that a song needs, and the way that it just kind of hits like a period at the end of the song. It's a hard stop, but it's not like the way that a lot of Balkan entries kind of have that hard stop where it's like, oh, it's 2 minutes 59 seconds. Everybody stop! Everybody stop!
I was expecting that we still had like 15 seconds on the clock for like a very kind of quiet coda. So that felt abrupt to me. Like that's like my only critique is that ending does feel like a hard stop, and I want it to be sort of a quiet moment, but then like a quiet fade out, and didn't quite get that.
Yeah. There was a televised performance that he did on some late night talk show, I think, and seeing the audience reacting to the song as he's going through, like you can just sort of see smiles creeping on people's faces as it's going along. It's like, oh, this is just hitting a lot of really good notes. And yeah, I think Netherlands, they picked well.
It's a good choice.
Yes, yeah, and I think they're in it to win this time around.
Also, selecting internally, they'd sort of sent out like a teaser video where they just sort of ran up to people in the street and made them put on headphones and listen to the song. But Switzerland's entry is here. It's John's Tears with Repondez-moi.
Pas de langue de paix, répondez-moi.
Gjon is of Albanian Kosovar descent. He has been on Albanian's Got Talent in 2010. And he was a semi-finalist on France's version of The Voice last year, which if you were asking, hey, what's Mika doing? Turns out Mika is a judge on The Voice in France.
Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise to land on while doing background on Gjon. And That teaser video, it was really interesting because like one of the clips was somebody be like, "Oh, what language is this?" And it's like, it's French.
It's very clearly French.
Yeah, I don't know. That poor guy.
Yeah.
Sorry to this man. So,
Yes.
I'm having an interesting relationship with this song. Like, it was initially released as a video before it was available on Spotify, and I don't particularly care for the video.
No, the video is really wet, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, like too much water, but also I don't think Gjon is particularly good at lip syncing.
That was bugging me the entire time we watched this before we recorded, is that there is a level of vocal happening that does not match the level of visual happening as far as the singing goes.
Yeah, like
Which
when
is-
he hits that high note, it's just kind of like, maybe he's just that
Maybe
talented
he's
that he
that
can produce
good.
that sound, but it's just like, there's like no
There's no
strain
yeah, just
or-
like, yeah.
Yeah, like the musculature of that sort of delivery is like, yeah,
It's like you should be straining for that note,
Yeah.
or at least something.
Yeah, but video aside,
This
this one's growing on me.
Okay.
Which kind of surprises me, and I don't know why I would think that it wouldn't mesh with me, but yeah, there's just some je ne sais quoi, that's French.
That's French.
That about the song that it's like, I'm responding to something. I can't put my finger on what it is just yet.
This one has not grown on me yet, and I think it needs like a few more listens where I'm not looking at the video because I've only been watching the video. And I think once I divorce it from that context, I will maybe like it more.
Yeah. It is available on Spotify now. So, and I think that's how I've been listening to it mostly at this point, and maybe that is contributing to it. Although, I don't know if the stage performance ends up being similar to the video in some way, that could be a problem. Like I'm thinking of last year at Melfest, where there was like the rain effect that they had for Victoria's song. It's like, if they do that with this,
Yeah. Again, is this going to be a fun year or is this going to be a serious year? I'm not sure we figured that out yet, which is interesting, is that I don't feel like anything is currently running away with the hearts of the people who are paying attention at this point. We have a lot of things that we like.
Right. And I think the semifinal split has also complicated that discussion a little bit. It feels like all of the... I have to look at that split.
I have to sit down and look at the split again, like once we have everything to go, to see if I still feel like semifinal 1 is stacked.
Yeah.
I think it is, but
I
still
too.
also need to double check.
Right.
Although I do like that Switzerland said, "Oh, you want boys with emotions?
Yes. Yeah.
We have you covered."
Yeah. But this at least feels genuine. It's not like the Slovenian final where there's just like, we'll just flash a picture of the sad boy on
here's
screen.
the boy. Yeah, here's the boy. He may be crying.
Yeah. There were other internal selections that happened during the week. We will cover those next week when we wrap up the outstanding selections, because the season's just so long. On Saturday, there were 4 competitive selections that happened. 3 of them were happening at the same time. We had Denmark, Sweden, and Finland, hence the Panopticon. And yeah, unfortunately for Denmark, I think that kind of got the...
They kind of got the short straw.
Yeah. And I think part of that was because of like all the coronavirus stuff that's been happening. The government was not going to allow gatherings of more than, I think it was 1,000 people.
Yep, and that would do it for...
Yeah. And so they decided to continue having the national final, but there was no audience there, which was kind of...
It was really weird anytime you get like one of those like big sweeping shots of the arena, and they're in a beautiful new venue.
Yeah, that number one, that's heartbreaking. Number 2, like it reminded me of the writers' strike in like 2007, 2008 thereabouts, when they decided to still have the People's Choice Awards, and it's just Queen Latifah kind of vamping for 2 hours because nobody can write any scripted bits. They couldn't bring in any presenters or anything because that's going to require writing as well. So it's just basically Queen Latifah filming a YouTube video for 2 hours.
Hey, Queen Latifah, how do you feel about doing improv for 2 hours?
Yeah. And she wasn't necessarily up for the task, but I don't think it like damaged her career or anything. It was just like, it's a gig, you know?
Right. I think that this ended up working out for Denmark. But yeah, it was just, there's just like a weird energy when you don't have the crowd to play off of.
Right. And I was kind of hoping it was going to be like in some of the rehearsal footage from like the various semifinals the last couple of years, where they would have like the cardboard cutouts of people in the audience so that they could pretend to do crowd work. They did not do that. That was probably for the best. But since there was that energy missing, that one was the one that we kind of kept on mute the whole time. Despite all of this, the song that ended up winning was Ben and Tan's Yes.
My heart is beating me to death. I've got an arrow through my chest. I'm so in love, I must confess. Say yes, say yes, say yes. I think my heart is beating me to death. I've got an arrow through my chest. I'm so in love, I must confess. Say yes, say yes.
And considering how anthemic this song is and how much I would think it would need to draw on audience energy, I thought they delivered a really strong performance and like worked the non-existent crowd very well.
Yes. This was like
Say yes, Ben.
Say yes.
Say yes.
Well, and like I had not paid attention to any of the precept for this, like because they did like the radio format for this, and I believe this is one of the ones that qualified radio-wise, which makes sense that it's one of the favorites going into this actual event. You were talking about anthemic. This has like a vibe that reminds me of the Lumineers and of that one Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros song that both have very kind of organic instrumentation, but also a very anthemic nature.
Right. Ben and Tan did come out of the pre-selection process. Actually, all three of the gold finalists came out of the radio selection process.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They're what the people have heard and said, yes, we like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is going to be the just having the additional exposure time, because they didn't release the auto qualifiers until about a week and a half, 2 weeks after the radio contest wrapped. And I thought all three of these songs were really solid choices. I thought Sandra Sanchez was a little weak in his live performance, but I think that may have also just been the case of just like there's no audience here, and I was told there would be one.
I was told that I would be performing to 10,000 people.
Yeah. So.
Just from a staging standpoint, so Jacob Karlberg's song for Sweden did not go through, and I was very disappointed about that a few weeks ago. But I just loved the mental image of the visuals of the Danish performance, which features the word yes very large in the background. And their performance, which features the Swedish word for no very large in the background. Could you imagine?
Oh, yeah. It had sort of a triangle. The background had sort of a triangular shape, so it did have kind of like a magic 8-ball quality about it. So ask the Danish semifinal. Check. Oh, okay. I'll check again later. So
Azerbaijan, send a song called Ask Again Later.
Yeah.
Please. It's all I have. I'm not fully in love with the staging, but again, that could just been the weirdness of an empty arena. Because like there were bits that worked and bits where it's like, okay, you have to connect point A and point B and point C through something.
Yeah. It seems to be kind of drawing on the geography of the Israel stage from last year.
Okay.
And and it's always tough with duets, particularly if one of them is playing an instrument, because Ben's playing guitar in that one. So I don't know. That seems like something that they can work on, particularly once they're on a differently shaped stage that doesn't have the triangle formation. So
the semifinal I think we're paying the most attention to in the Panopticon was probably Sweden. Just because Melfest is a big thing, and we finally have our 12 entries, and we kind of briefly did a drive-by coverage of that last week. We participated in the Aussie Vision jury, which was great because I learned that the main thing we agreed on was that Anna Bergendahl was our top, and we agreed on nothing else.
And really, it seemed like that was kind of what was happening across the board, where it's like, oh, there is a 12-way tie for middles.
For middle, yes. Like on the other hand, Sweden got our wish list.
Yes.
Because the top three was all ladies.
Yes.
Was all ladies. So Anna Bergendahl, our favorite, placed third, which a little disappointed but like overall, just like a woman is going from Sweden. That should not feel as much like progress as it does.
I know.
When
all was said and done, the Mamas won with Move.
there ain't no ocean deeper than my love for you, and there ain't no fire that I wouldn't run right through. There ain't no mountain, baby, that I wouldn't move. Nothing that I wouldn't
So the Mamas won both the jury, where they were tied with Dolter with 65 points each, and the televote. She ended up 1 point ahead of Dolter in the televote.
That is so crazy.
So close. There was a really lovely handover moment between John Lundvik, who used them as his backing singers last year, and them. Very emotional. And it's like, remember your favorite part of Too Late for Love? Great news, we're sending that again.
Yes.
Because like that was all that I talked about last year with that song was like I loved kind of the gospel-y vocals. I want a staging of this where it doesn't feel like they're the muses from Hercules. Because it feels like there's still a set of backing singers.
Yeah. And rewatching it earlier, I was hoping it's like, well, wait, maybe the message of the song is more about like how you're like moving from the backstage to the front of the stage, but like listening to the lyrics, it's like, no, that's not really the story of the song. And yeah, like they can't spend half the song behind microphone stands.
I want something more dynamic out of that.
Yeah.
It's very solidly constructed. I can see it doing well with the juries because of that. There's like the Everybody Wanna Move Like Us bit feels like kind of copy pasted in from a different song that's also called Move. Like that's still what kind of bugs me.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of the actual song is gonna get tweaked since essays were due before this dropped. So but I think
Sweden,
there's a lot that they can work with here because there was a fair amount of changing of the staging between Melfest and the final last year, wasn't there?
I don't think there wasn't like a ton of changes. Like I think
I guess it was more like in lighting cues.
Yeah, just like lighting, more of like a lighting cues thing, and like I think they can like re-choreograph this and figure out. Okay, so now that we're not on the Melfest stage, we're on like this stage. What does this look like? I feel like they've got some good bones to work with, and it's up tempo, and they're sending women. They're sending 3 women.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, and then like one other note is that it delighted me to no end that Boys with Emotions got 14 points in the televote.
I was really shocked by the televote overall. Like, it was a wild ride.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because like I feel like beforehand, I had looked on Twitter, and admittedly, that's not the most accurate place to look for Eurovision information because we're all trying to process things in real time. But people are like, "There's been enough talk about Honest Demina that like that one could come from behind the sweep," and like I had mentally prepared myself for cool, this is still a very different thing for Sweden. This is a song in Swedish. Don't you dare change it out of Swedish.
Right.
I had all my talking points, and then like that one was also just kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Boys with Emotions at the bottom.
Mohambi, I think, got the fewest
Mohambi
points.
got 6 points.
Yeah. But he seemed kind of okay with that. He was seen laughing as they were cutting away from his view in the green room.
Yeah.
But they also changed it so that they were doing the televote reveal the same way that they do it at Eurovision, where they start at whoever had the fewest points from the jury and then moving up the board that way. Which sort of worked. It's still very clunky.
It's still very clunky. You're still kind of scrambling to figure out, okay, but who won the televote?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you speak Swedish, then yes, you would know like just how math works. It's like, oh, I know what that number means, and that is one more than what Daughter had. But I mean, we could tell that the Mamas won because they were celebrating.
Because the camera is only focusing on them.
Right. Yeah, but it's just like, oh, how much did they win by? How much did they win by? And they did not show the scoreboard for like close to 3 minutes. And I was like, how close was it? And then seeing, it was just 1 point. And yeah. I mean, granted, we're not the audience for this technically, so trying to break the tension or build up the tension, but make it visually clear. I don't know. Like there's just not a clean way to do first and second place.
Yeah.
Just yet.
Yeah.
And that kind of also came into play in Finland. I feel weird about Finland just because everybody really, really wanted Erika Vikman to win, but it's not that I wasn't rooting for that song. My choice in the Finland final was Loverview. I believe I was the only person who voted for it.
I also like Loverview, and it's the sort of kind of chill indie tronica thing that we were getting from like Estonia a few years ago.
Right.
And now Estonia's just done with that. And Finland's like, hello, yes.
Yeah.
Loverview. Yeah. And like, I really like that song. It's still on my playlist. But I thought that
there was no way that was going to win.
I was like, this is great, and it's not going to win, and I'm happy you're here.
Yes.
Early on, I was worried that when the songs were revealed, that the 2 fun songs, so Bananas and Chichi Lena, were going to cancel one another out, and the boy was going to win. And what happened? Well, I'm not sure if they really canceled each other out. The jury was sort of split between them when they were giving them points.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird just because, like, the Bananas performance, I just thought it was really, really bad.
Yeah, like,
Sorry,
it was more basic than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, like, I mean, it really showed the artistry of hasta la vista, which is not a phrase that I thought I would be saying. But, like, they were also just kind of plagued with technical problems. Like, one of them almost fell off of the
stairs.
platform.
Like, give them some handrails. Give them some handrails.
Yeah, it's like, and that was something that was, like, not the performer's fault. They were just, like, very high
every
stairs.
time they did the repeat of, like, all the songs they played, they showed that moment of, like, one of them, like, having to, like, jump down off the stairs so they didn't fall off the stairs.
Yeah, and then there's a part where, like, two of them have flamethrowers. One of them didn't work.
One of them didn't work. Also, why do they have flamethrowers? Where is Finnish OSHA?
Yeah, especially when it's just like, oh, we're gonna be bananas, and it's like, I don't want someone who's
Please do not burn the studio down.
Yeah, it's just like, no, if saying you are bananas is a disqualifying factor for having a flamethrower, I'm sorry. But, yeah, the person who did end up winning was Aksel Kankanranta with his song Looking Back.
But we never know what we have until it's over and we're looking back. Speeding through red lights, we had a good ride. But we never know what we have until it's over and we're looking back.
I think the song is fine. It's weird in this context because he was the only.
He's the only boy.
Yeah, and he ends up winning. So it's just like all of our like Sweden pickle woman rage got to transfer directly to Finland.
just like hit retweet on Twitter. Is like also Finland.
Yes.
Name a woman.
Yes.
So this is competent and it's well performed and it's safe and it's static. It's great that if you don't want to do what Erika Vikman was going to do, that's fine. But also, I feel like safe is not going to win you Eurovision. Safe might not even qualify you.
Yeah, I mean, particularly in this field where there are so many
nations who are at least sticking their neck out and trying different things and doing stuff that feels very kind of idiosyncratic. And this feels like a ballad that could have popped in anywhere in like the last few years for Finland, which I will say this feels like it's better than last year.
Oh yeah,
but that's the lowest bar to clear.
Right. And I mean, I think even the broadcaster was able to kind of acknowledge that because they've already confirmed that they're using the format from this year for next year's selection.
Yeah, I feel like after last year's selection, like it was dead on arrival when it finished.
Right.
The Finnish final. So that was not great for having to then do another month and a half of promo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping that this one they're able to figure some stuff out. I mean, I can understand why Erika Vikman didn't do so great with the juries, just because that performance was over the top in a number of ways that I feel like this year's Eurovision is trying to get away from that, where it's just like, oh, like the really like cheesy Euro trash, what have you. It's like, no, there's some like legitimately good songs that are happening and that are moving towards 2020.
Yeah,
and,
I feel like the international juries right now are like, oh, we want to pick a nice song, and like the populace is just like, yes, but we would also like Garbage, please.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of conflict right now between what people say they want, what people think other people want. Yeah. Like it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's what you think people want from a Eurovision song versus what people actually want this year.
Yeah. Is this song electable?
Is
like
this...
that's...
boy. It's electable if you vote for it.
Topic. Yeah.
Anyways, best of luck to Aksel Kankanranta.
Yeah.
And then finally, after the 3-screen panopticon, everything was done except for Portugal.
Woo.
I had not been paying attention to the two semifinals, and partially that was just because it was coming at the end of very long Eurovision weekends where I was just tired. But this was like the first time I'd paid attention. They had such a wonderfully diverse field of 8 songs, I thought. And like you had things that felt like they were sort of like a step beyond Telenovelas from last year, and just in terms of visual presentation as well as song. You had much more standard stuff, and then you had just Portugal marching to the beat of its own drum, because like I loved Passepartout.
Oh yeah,
because like that's just very sweet. The staging was maybe a smidge too Broadway, Like it should just
Yeah.
be. It should focus more on her in the song, not like the two background, like not all the dancers, but like it was very sweet and charming, and of course it finished second.
Yeah, I mean, it did win the televote. Jury was kind of. It wouldn't surprise me if they had kind of the same notes that you had, because it finished kind of in the middle with the jury. The one that did win the jury was Guerra Amarela do Sol, which was a visually stunning performance.
Mm-hmm.
Felt a little kind of in the shadow of Telenovelas.
Yes.
In a
Yeah.
lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
ways, but
Yes.
it's a very pretty song and like just a visually stunning performance. And full disclosure, we had to get to Geek Bowl, and that was a little bit of a trip. So like we were able to watch the performances for Portugal, but then had to kind of piece out once the televote opened, which may have been a very good use of our time.
Because there was
according
still
to
like an
Twitter,
hour and a
so-
half left.
It might have even been more than that.
It might have been more than that. I don't know. I just knew that by the time that we got down to Geek Bowl, I was like checking my phone. I was like, oh, there's results.
Yeah. So the one that did end up winning was Elisa with Medo de Sentir.
Eu não era assim, mas agora tenho medo de sentir. Pergunta ao tempo, ele sabe tudo sobre mim. Pergunta ao tempo, ele sabe tudo sobre mim.
And this one finished second with the jury and the televote, and that makes sense
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. That was all I really had to say. Was yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of looking at the breakdown, there didn't seem to be a ton of consensus with the jury and the televote, which was interesting, particularly when you get into the semifinals, because for fourth place, there were 8 entries in each semifinal, and the top 4 would advance. There was a tie for fourth place in both semifinals.
Wow.
And it was the jury that broke the tie. And it was like, oh, that's interesting. And yeah, so I thought it was a really strong final. Like there was not a dud song in the bunch.
Wasn't a dud in the
And-
bunch.
Yeah. And we had a handful of people watching with us who are new to Eurovision, or like were asking a lot of questions like, so why do you do this? But it seemed like they were enjoying Portugal, would you say? Or,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, I feel like that was a good one for them to see, just to see this is what a national final is, because again, like a very strong lineup.
Yes, and not as crazy bonkers as like Finland would have been, or
Yeah.
like trying to contextualize. Okay, Denmark's usually not this like stiff and awkward
Yeah.
because
Usually
circumstances.
there are
Yeah.
people in the arena.
Right, or like people applauding that aren't in the orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting though that Twitter seemed very dissatisfied with
Yeah.
a lot of. I mean, I think there was a lot of support for the Mamas, but even then, like there was still a lot of grumbling about like. I don't know.
Dolter, yeah.
Yeah, Dolter, and Bergendal, Finland. I think Finland kind of drew the most ire.
Yeah, Finland, everybody was just mad.
Yeah.
Everybody was just mad. And we maybe used up all of our anger there, and then like, had like some or at least we're just like more primed to be disappointed.
That's fair. Yeah, because Finland was the
Finland
first
was the first to
finish.
announce,
Yeah.
and like we were all hot about
Yeah.
Finland, and then Sweden happened, and we were kind of like a bunch of us were happy because it's not a man. It's not a man.
Right.
Thank you, Sweden. It's not a man.
And it became apparent fairly early on. It was like, oh, the top 4 are going to be women. This is amazing. But yeah, and then it was just like, but which one? So, but yeah, it's almost the end of selection season.
It's almost the end, yeah.
Because as we are recording, San Marino was just like, let's do our own little televote thing for their songs.
Which, did you guys not see what Norway did with online voting? That worked great for them. It's fine, San Marino. You definitely have the infrastructure to do that.
Yeah. Well, they also were just like, yeah, it's like one of those Twitter polls where you're just like, okay, I'm going to put it up for like 25 minutes.
For 48 hours.
Yeah. So next week, we'll be talking about Austria, Ireland, San Marino, Cyprus, North Macedonia. All of these songs exist in the wild. We are still waiting for what Malta, Azerbaijan, and Russia have.
They're just currently engaged in a standoff waiting to see who gets to release their song last.
By this time next week, all essays are due.
So that's going to do it for this episode of the Euro What. Thanks for listening. The Euro What podcast is hosted by Ben Smith, that's me, and Mike McComb.
That's me.
You can find us on our website at eurowhat.com and on Twitter and Instagram at eurowhat. We'd love to hear your comments, questions, and topics we should talk about in future episodes. You can subscribe to the Euro What on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcast app of your choice. Be sure to check out our Spotify playlist inspired by this episode. We'll be back next week to try and make sense of what's new in Eurovision.